The NASCAR race at Atlanta Motor Speedway saw a dramatic crash involving Austin Cindric and two-time Daytona 500 winner William Byron. It all happened on lap 258, just 2 laps before the scheduled finish of the Ambetter Health 400. Cindric, driving the number 2 Team Penske Ford, got caught behind Kyle Larson. As he struggled to hold his position, his car drifted up, made contact with Larson, and spun out of control. Unfortunately, Byron had no chance to avoid the wreck. Both cars slid down the backstretch, slammed into the inside wall, and were effectively out of contention. Byron, who was aiming to become the first driver since Matt Kenseth in 2009 to win the first 2 races of the NASCAR season, saw his hopes vanish in an instant. He managed to drive his damaged car back to pit road, but it was clear that his race was over. Cindric, on the other hand, had to be towed back to the garage due to severe front-end damage. It was a heartbreaking moment for both drivers, but especially for Byron, who had positioned himself for a strong finish after winning the Daytona 500 just a week earlier. The crash was not just another wreck. It had major implications for the race and the season. With Byron out, the door was open for another driver to take control of the race. The incident also showed the unpredictable nature of racing at Atlanta Motor Speedway, a track that has become known for its superspeedway-style pack racing. It's a place where drafting, strategy, and quick reflexes can make or break a driver's race. While the crash was dramatic, the way NASCAR handled the race's ending sparked even more controversy. NASCAR has long had a policy of throwing the caution flag when a major wreck happens on the final lap. But this time, things were different. In recent weeks, NASCAR's decisions on late race cautions had been inconsistent, leading to frustration among fans and drivers alike. Just a week earlier, in the Daytona 500, NASCAR had allowed the race to finish under green despite a huge wreck occurring in Turn 3 on the final lap. This was unusual because for more than a decade, NASCAR had consistently thrown the caution flag in such situations. The precedent was clear. When there's a big wreck at the end, the race is usually frozen, and the leader at that moment is declared the winner. But then came Sunday's Cup Series race at Atlanta. This time, when a big wreck happened on the backstretch of the final lap, NASCAR chose to throw the caution immediately, rather than let the race finish under green. The sudden shift in decision-making left many confused and angry. The inconsistency became even more frustrating when NASCAR officials addressed the issue. Alton Sawyer, NASCAR's Senior Vice President of Competition, admitted that the previous race should have ended with a caution. He told drivers before the Atlanta race that they would return to the traditional approach, throwing a caution if there was a big wreck on the final lap. While some appreciated the attempt at clarification, it only highlighted how inconsistent the rules had been enforced. NASCAR's credibility took a hit because fans and teams simply didn't know what to expect anymore. Despite the controversy, the race at Atlanta delivered exciting action on the track. The pack racing at the Speedway has made it one of the most thrilling venues in recent years. Drivers raced side by side for much of the event, with lead changes happening frequently. The unpredictability of the track kept fans on the edge of their seats, even as the controversy over NASCAR's decisions loomed in the background. In the end, Christopher Bell declared the winner, leading only 1 lap, the most important one. It was a significant victory for Bell and Toyota, marking only their second superspeedway win since the introduction of the next-gen car. Bell's win also showed how unpredictable superspeedway racing can be. He was not considered a top contender for most of the race, but when the opportunity came, he seized it. Kyle Larson and Carson Hocevar also played key roles in the closing moments. Larson found himself in contention for the win late in the race. Hocevar, meanwhile, gave Bell a crucial push that helped him take the lead. The final moments of the race were shaping up to be a classic 3-wide finish, but the caution flag ended those hopes. While Bell took the victory, the real action came from the battles behind him. One of the most aggressive drivers of the night was Carson Hocevar. He stayed in the top 10 for most of the race, using a fearless approach to keep himself in the fight. He made bold moves, blocking lanes and filling every gap he could. This aggressive style earned him a second-place finish, but it also made him a few enemies along the way. At the end of Stage 1, Kyle Busch was furious with Hocevar, calling him out over the radio.
Go tell that 77 he's done that same move 10 times. I don't care if I wreck the whole can field. I'm over him. He's a fucking douchebag. I'm going to wreck his ass.
Later in the race, Hocevar got into Ryan Blaney, spinning him with just 20 laps to go. Miraculously, Blaney saved his car from what could have been a massive wreck and still managed to finish fourth. That kind of recovery is rare, making Blaney's late race performance even more impressive. After the race, Hocevar's aggression didn't go unnoticed. Ross Chastain, who has a reputation for being aggressive himself, confronted Hocevar on pit road. It was an ironic moment. Chastain calling someone out for aggressive driving is like a pot calling the kettle black. Hocevar might have earned a great finish, but he also earned a reputation that could come back to haunt him in future races. One of the most surprising parts of the night was Kyle Larson's performance. Larson has never been known for his super speedway racing, and even Jeff Gordon admitted last week that it gets into Larson's head. However, he managed to win Stage 2, which may have been his first ever stage win on a super speedway. Despite running strong, Larson found himself in controversy late in the race. He tried to move up the track but wasn't completely clear of Austin Cindric, forcing Cindric into the wall. The crash also collected William Byron, ending the night for both drivers. Cindric had led a lot of laps, just like last week, only get taken out in someone else's mistake again. Team Penske as a whole had another frustrating night. They dominated qualifying, starting 1, 2, 3, 4 with Josh Berry, but when it mattered most, things didn't go their way. While Berry did win a stage, the main Penske drivers, Cindric, Blaney, and Logano, failed to close the deal. It's becoming a trend for them. They lead laps and run up front, but they can't finish races the way they should. Meanwhile, Bubba Wallace had a strong points night. He earned the most stage points of any driver and looked competitive throughout. His Toyota teammates also had decent showings, with Denny Hamlin playing it safe all night and sneaking into a top 10 finish. Another driver who quietly had a good night was Kyle Busch. He ran near the front most of the race and secured a top 10 finish. Ross Chastain also ended up in the top 10, despite the drama with Hocevar. One of the biggest comebacks of the night belonged to Michael McDowell. At one point, he was 6 laps down, sitting in the garage with a power steering issue. Somehow, his team got the car fixed quickly, and through a series of wave arounds and free passes, he found himself back on the lead lap. By the end, he finished 13th, which is incredible considering where he was earlier. Not everyone had a good night, though. Daniel Suarez had a miserable performance. He had finished second, first, and second in his last 3 Atlanta races, making this statistically his best track. However, from the start, he struggled. He qualified poorly, ran outside the top 15 most of the night, and when he finally started moving forward, he was caught up in a wreck. Suarez was hard on himself after the race, saying he just wasn't good enough. Since he is in a contract year, he needs strong performances to secure his future at Trackhouse Racing. With Circuit of the Americas coming up next week, a road course where Suarez typically does well, he does have a chance to bounce back. But if he struggles again, it could be a bad sign for the rest of the season. Now that's all we have for today's episode. Don't forget to give it a like, smash that subscribe button, and also ring that notification bell for more upcoming uploads.